Hey everyone, it's MW Smith. So check this out. On my pursuit of trying to discover more about those Indians I found, the Cole people, in my previous videos, I started, my mind really can't get over the islands around Australia, whether they be, Negro Island in the Philippines, the island of New Zealand, and those smaller islands. It's like there's so much land there, so many people that are there. We don't know too much about. I mean, there are those out there that know more than I do. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. A lot more than I do. I just haven't come across their work. But one of the things I discovered while learning about uh, Tasmania is that they have a tiger there, right? I thought this was interesting. I was telling Arthur Scott about this, so just the stuff that we were sharing back and forth. I thought it would be nice to share it with you as well. If you haven't checked this out, I mean, I'll just give you a quick glimpse of it if you're interested in it. I just thought this was pretty something because we've read about the animal mixings and stuff like that, but I thought this was interesting because this thing literally is unique, and the fact that it was almost chased to being extinct, a lot like the Aborigines of Australia themselves. I think this is something interesting that they both have that in common, that they were chased down like that. But check this out, right?
Hidden away in a Sydney vault is a young pickled pup. For almost 140 years it's remained locked in its glassy tomb. But this is no ordinary pup. In fact, it's not a pup at all. It's a fetus of an animal more closely related to an Australian kangaroo, a marsupial which looked like a dog, had stripes like a tiger, yet carried its young in a pouch.
Did you get all that? It's related to the kangaroo, right? It carries its babies in a pouch like a kangaroo does, right? All right. It's of some type of dog relation, but it has the also has the genetics of a tiger. I mean, ain't that animal mixing? Ain't isn't that something like the fallen angels were doing? Where I just thought that was interesting. Right off the bat.
How the Tasmanian tiger, or thylacine, came to be extinct is a tragedy. How it may live again will be due to a miracle.
We have in that pup the seeds, the capacity, the time capsule to bring that pup back, bring thylacines back through the DNA preserved in that animal.
This is the story of one man's quest to reverse extinction. Using the DNA extracted from this bottled specimen, Professor Mike Archer wants to clone a Tasmanian tiger. Our story starts just south of Australia, on the island of Tasmania. It's a land of craggy mountains, wild rivers, and mysterious forests.
And what I found was interesting is that the Aboriginals of this island too are a lot like the Aboriginals of Australia. The indigenous people. That is, I mean, not trying to be fancy or anything like that. I just thought that was interesting too. But you don't hear too much about this.
For millions of years, it's been isolated from the rest of the world.
And another thing, I can't help but do this. I mean, I mentioned it with Arthur Scott when I watch this, and I watch stuff like this. I got a brother-in-law that's still young. He's in high school. We talk whenever he stops over and stuff. And he's being taught in school that Adolf Hitler exterminated the Jews, because Germany was overpopulated in the one group of people that he could get rid of were the Jews, and no one would really care. And from that conversation, he gets to talking about how today in school he's also being taught the United States is overpopulated, and stuff like that. And it's like, how are they actually teaching this in the today's youth believing this stuff? I was like, yeah, I said, step outside. We stepped outside, right? We live in a small town surrounded by 7 hills, and I'm like, look at all these hills, right? Just covered. I said, look at all of Pennsylvania. Let's go for a drive if we have to. It's 5 hours to get from where we're at over here near Lake Erie, right, all the way up to Philadelphia, right? And I said, all we see is nothing but forest, untouched land. Look at New York State. Look, I grew up in the South, right? I grew up in Florida, South Carolina. You know what I'm saying? And I moved to New York thinking I'm moving to New York City, right? I had no idea that where I was going was all the way over here near Buffalo, right? I had no idea that the state of New York is as lush with forest as it is. I mean, we're talking, there's just hole in the wall kind of towns, and it's just nothing but woods as far as you can see. And this New York State is massive when you actually stop back then, and look at it on a map. And it's like, that's just one state. Drive through New Jersey, and you're seeing the same thing. How do they teach this and people actually believe it? You know what I'm saying? And then this is, like you said, Tasmania. Have you ever watched Lord of the Rings? Have you seen New Zealand and how much land is not touched? That's just small-minded thinking, and it's just disturbing. But let's get on.
Disconnected by the barrier of oceans and the tyranny of distance. In its impenetrable wildernesses, there are still valleys which have probably never known the foot of man.
Now that's almost impossible. Look, did you hear that? There are still valleys that have never even known, that have not known the foot of man. You hear that? And they're going to tell you the earth is overpopulated. Come on. Like, wow.
Like mainland Australia, Tasmania has its kangaroos, wombats and wallabies, marsupials that carry their young in pouches. But there was one Tasmanian animal that's no longer found on the mainland. A ferocious flesh-eater that terrorized all the other beasts.
Now that is a pretty deep assumption. Like, are we sure? Do you know that for a fact? What were the witnesses that can corroborate that,
The thylacine. For millions of years, this wolf-like marsupial was the island's chief predator. Yet it wasn't a wolf, and though it had stripes like a tiger, it wasn't a tiger either. But the name stuck. They also called it the Tasmanian tiger. But today, only its ghost remains. For over 60 years, there's been no confirmed sighting. Its mating call is no longer heard crying through the forests. Little remains of it except photos and museum specimens.
What is it with, the so-called European? Why do they have such a need to hunt everything that they find? Everything they come across. You ever notice that? I mean, even to the day, like, they love to just hunt just for the fun of it or the thrill. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've gone turkey hunting, right, for dinner. But outside of that, I've never went hunting just so I can mount a head of a deer on my wall or a buck, or I'm going to kill this coyote because it's chasing off all these deers, and then I'm going to mount it because, I've never caught a coyote before. I don't get that. You ever wonder what's up with that? What's up with that, really? And then one last thing. You think about that. What was it? The tags from Missouri. Missouri having the license, passing out the license to hunt, you know, niggas. Yeah, what? Why? Why? What is their need to just hunt everything down and kill it? I mean, it makes you do wonder, when Lex Will was saying, about the curse of, or was it the curse of Cain, or, Abel's brother, and how it was passed on, right, to the man that killed Cain, and how the thing was, what was it, that the ground will not give forth its fruit? Is it just that they're so embedded with this DNA and an idea that we can't grow anything, so we'll just kill everything? And now we just kill everything for sport. You ever think about that?
There are skins and taxidermist models, some still showing the bullet holes. For the thylacines' extinction was quite deliberate. A state-inspired extermination fueled by irrational fear. About 1,000 kilometres north of Tasmania is Sydney. One of the city's oldest institutions is the Australian Museum. Its director is Professor Mike Archer. On his own admission, he's obsessed with the thylacine and its fate.
We should feel dreadfully guilty about what happened here. This was the really most beautiful, spectacular flesh-eating mammal in Australia, and the first thing we did when we got here was exterminate it.
Do you hear that? They feel more guilty about exterminating this creature than they do the extermination of the people that are there. The indigenous people are still fighting for recognition, and they're the only ones there to be recognized, but just to have the Australia recognize them, right? They fighting just for their language to be adopted as a state language where everyone should learn, to speak this thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't comprehend that the overall ignorance and just being ignored, when there's no one else to rival with you. But they're gonna be all sad and upset about this, whether they came and killed because of their irrational fears. Anyways, you want to watch more about it? I mean, there's tons of videos on this if it's interesting at all. I just thought it was something I wanted to share because I don't know too many of us know about this, animal and stuff like that. Anyways, just check out how we feel like it. It's NW Smith, and I'm out.